Buying versus renting. Renting versus buying. It's the age-old argument. I believe that it differs for each person's individual scenario, but here are 10 things that you should be aware of if you are looking to rent. What's up guys, Lewi Gault here, welcome to the channel as always. If you haven't done already, subscribe, hit the like button, comment below, hit the notification bell, do all that stuff so you can stay up to date with what we do here on this channel, which is Denver and real estate matters. Today we are talking about renting, and specifically things that you should watch out for as a renter or as someone who is looking to start renting. In today's crazy real estate market, we're actually seeing this quite a lot with some clients because we have a real lack of inventory here in Denver and in a lot of different cities around the US. So some people are deciding to wait off from buying and they're going to rent for a little bit and then buy when the market calms down, if it ever will. Who knows? Now, I will always list out pros and cons for buying and renting with each individual person I talk to. It's not a blanket equation here, but if you are thinking about renting, here are 10 things that you should take into consideration before jumping into that rental market. Here we go. Okay, the first thing to take into consideration is that it is expensive to rent. I'm not sure what city you are in right now, but in Denver, rental prices are actually going up. And we're not seeing it so much in the urban parts of town and downtown and stuff like that. We're seeing it more in the suburban areas of town, especially with people's second homes that they are renting out. They know that people need homes, especially young families, because there is a lack of inventory. So rental prices are actually increasing right now. So just be aware that if you are looking to rent, it's not always the cheap alternative that you think it's going to be to buying. In many cases, actually, it's cheaper to buy a place than to rent it right now. Because interest rates are so low, your monthly mortgage payment is on par, if not below, rental rates for the same property. Pretty crazy. Okay, number 2, rentals are not always move-in ready. They may look that way on Craigslist or Facebook or Zillow or wherever you find it, but most of the time with rentals, they're secondary properties for the owners, which means that they just band-aid over the cracks and try and fix things at the lowest cost available, which often leads to bigger problems down the road. I know this firsthand from my wife and I when we were renting back in the day. Our landlord, who's a lovely, lovely person, would just come in and like get a screwdriver and fix something and try and do all this, and the place was a nightmare. And once we had little kids, we were like, hey, this isn't actually that safe anymore. So just be aware that when you're renting, your landlord isn't always spending the most money to fix the place up perfectly for you guys to live in. So you might have to do some DIY of your own, which dropping money into a rental property that isn't yours is always a bad idea. So just be aware that it's not going to live up to the expectation that you are thinking of. Number 3 is you have to plan ahead and have a lot of properties in mind for renting. What you'll find a lot of times on Zillow and different rental websites is that something looks available, but it's not. It might have been rented out like 3-4 months ago, but they just haven't updated it yet because they don't care because they have someone in. Also, if someone has applied for the rental, they could be undergoing a background check and all the other stuff that landlords do. So it might appear available and you get your hopes up about it, and then it has been rented already. And the other problem is other renters. They might have signed up, even signed a lease, but haven't dropped off their deposit yet, and the owner is waiting for them to drop off the deposit because they think, happy days, I've got someone in for 1 year to 2 years, but they haven't actually dropped the deposit off yet, and you're waiting in limbo to see if that happens. Your best bet is to line up a bunch of properties, at least 5 to 10, to make sure that you get one of those that's suitable for you and your family. And number 4, be prepared to walk into a mess. So a lot of times when rentals come up, it's because a current tenant is about to finish their lease, which is great because you can go in. But the problem is that tenant doesn't care who's renting the place after them. They don't care about the money that the seller is going to have to spend to get someone in and stuff like that. So when you're trying to go and see a rental, it's a little bit tougher because the owner is not living in there, super motivated to get you in, get you signed a lease and get going. The tenant is in there who's going to be moving out in the next 15, 30 days, whatever it is. They don't care. They're just chilling. Or maybe they're packing boxes and it's just a disgusting mess because of everything they haven't cleaned. So you might walk in and get access to the property and it's an absolute disaster. So just keep that in mind, that it's not typically someone's house that they're looking after in a spick and span way and making sure Mary Poppins is in, cleaning everything. A lot of times rental properties can be pretty grimy, so when you walk in, don't be surprised if it doesn't look just the way it did on the Zillow listing. Okay, number 5 is multiple applications. Now, we see multiple offers all the time on our listings here in Denver and other markets, I'm sure, as well. But multiple applications for rentals are just as bad, if not worse. It's a lot of paperwork that you have to get. And if you want to get into that rental quickly, you have to have all your ducks in a row ready to go. In addition to the rental application, you're going to need to show your driver's license. You're going to need to agree to a criminal background check, perhaps even a drug test, although in Denver, probably not. And you're going to have to provide about 2 to 3 months of income statements or bank statements that you should have printed out already. Black out all the things you don't want them to see, but it should show the income coming into your account to tell them that you can afford the rental. With some cases as well, you might have to pay an application fee just to submit an application and also submit a credit score. So there's a lot of things that you have to have lined up before you submit a rental if you really want to get it. So if I am renting a place out and I see an application with all the stuff I need already, or I see an application just on its own, I'm probably going to go with these guys. So get your ducks in a row, make sure you have everything needed to make sure the landlord picks you for the rental. Number 6 is our furry friends. Now in Denver, everyone has dogs, and cats as well, but dogs are everywhere, which is usually fine, but in some rentals they will not allow animals, or they won't allow breeds over a certain weight, like 30 pounds or something like that, I think I've seen before. So there's a lot of restrictions on pets, especially on dogs here. So make sure you are checking that out before you even apply for the rental, because there's nothing worse than applying for everything, having everything done and dusted, you're ready to move in, and then they find out that you have an animal and they say, no, we can't do that. The landlord also may require a significant pet deposit. We've seen this before, quite a large pet deposit, because obviously dogs and cats scratch up floors, they can chew on things, they can break things. And as much as you love your animals, and I love mine too, I've got 2 dogs and 1 cat, love them all, but sometimes you're wearing those tinted specs and you can't see the mess that they make in your house until someone else either points it out or you go into someone else's house and see it for yourself. Now what we've seen as well is people come in and get their dogs certified, or cats as well, but usually dogs certified as service animals. And of course that falls into the American Disabilities Act, but you have to be careful with that. It's not just as easy as getting an animal certified. You might have to show medical records and stuff like that. So trying to sneak in the back door that way can sometimes be a little tougher than it seems. So do your research on animal allowances for the properties and you should be fine. Okay, number 7 is timing. Now, timing is a funny thing because it's a rental, but you might be waiting for other people to move out of that rental, and we all know that sometimes things can go wrong, especially with tenants in a rental. When you're coming to the end of the lease, if for some reason it's not been a good encounter with the owner and the current tenants, they're not really going to care too much if this owner over here struggles a little bit to get them out. So if they stay a day or 2 more, it's only going to cause misery for you. So make sure that you have a bit of a buffer of your moving date to make sure that they get out in time and get all the place cleaned for you to then move into. If a tenant doesn't move out of a house, they become a squatter, and squatters actually have a lot of rights here in Denver. So it can be a little bit of a situation. It doesn't happen a lot, but you should be prepared. If you're like on a super tight deadline to get into that house and they decide, we're going to move out tomorrow instead, what are you going to do? So make sure that you have a bit of a buffer for your timing to move into the rental after it's all been cleaned and ready for you to go. Okay, next up is appliances. Appliances can vary depending on where you're going. Is there a washer and dryer in the unit, or is it in the building? Are all the appliances that you've seen in the pictures and you saw in your tour coming with the rental, or do they belong to the tenant, or what's going on there? So make sure in the lease that you read through that, what appliances are coming with the property for rental, because the last thing you want to do is move into a house and there's nothing there for you to cook on or put the dishes in or wash your clothes in because you didn't read the small print. So make sure you read up in the lease, check out which appliances come with the property. Okay, number 9, know who you're dealing with. Now, some people rent out their own houses and they deal with the tenants themselves, but a lot of people use property management companies as well. So you should find out who you're actually dealing with. Am I dealing with the owner, or am I dealing with the property management company? Because the communication lines can be completely different. If you have a great relationship with your owner, then it can be great. You could just text them like, hey, the boiler's off, or whatever's going on. And if they're super cool, they'll be like, hey, I'll be around in 10 minutes or whatever it is, and come and fix things. That could be awesome, but it can also be a little tricky as well, because if you keep texting them about things that are breaking and breaking and breaking, they might after a while be like, this guy sucks, let's just get him out of there, or I'm not going to come and fix this, or he can fix himself. So it can be a little bit tricky, but usually it can be okay. If you're dealing with a property management company, now they're obligated to deal with you in a professional manner. So if you're calling them, make sure you're aware of their response time. Are they local? Where are they based? Are they close? Can you go by and drop a rent check off there? Or how are you going to pay through them if they got an online portal or whatever it is? So there's a lot of kind of different things that you need to take into consideration. If you're dealing with an individual, it can be super loosey-goosey and a good time and all that stuff, but it can also get a little bit personal and intermingled. If you guys become friends and then something goes wrong, it can be tough. If you're dealing with a property management company, they should be straight down the line, taking care of everything, very rigid, but at the same time, you need to make sure that they are on top of things that you need to get done. So make sure you know who you're dealing with and how to communicate best with them. Number 10 is the lease. The lease is everything for a rental, and I've seen a bunch of different leases. Some of them are really fair, some of them are super one-sided towards the seller that is just a joke. So make sure you read all the way through that. If you want to have a professional look through it, if you're in Denver, feel free to send it to me. I can have a glance over it for you. You want to make sure that there's certain things that you understand about the lease. If you break the lease, if you get out of there early, are you going to have to pay the full term of the contract, or can you get out with paying a month or two or whatever it is? Or is it month to month? If you're doing a year-long lease, does it switch to a month-to-month lease straight after that's expired, or how's that going to work? Also, what are you responsible for? Do you need to do the yard work? Do you need to do the upkeep of some things, or is the landlord on top of all that? You have to read through the entire lease, every single paragraph, to make sure that you are covered in everything and that you fully understand everything about the property, about your responsibilities, and about the landlord's responsibilities. That way, when something comes up, you know exactly who to call or who is responsible for doing what. So there you have it. Those are 10 things that you need to look out for in a rental if you're deciding to go down that route. If you have any questions about rentals or about buying, drop them in the comments below and I will try and answer them to the best of my ability. Obviously, I deal more with sales, but there is a big rental market here in Denver, so I do have a lot of knowledge in that regard too. So if you need anything, don't hesitate, reach out, let me know, and I will see you next week on the channel. Take it easy.